Hi, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Andrew Discusses, where this week, or this time in this episode, we're actually going to be discussing Street Hawk versus Knight Rider. Which one of the two shows did it better? Was it Street Hawk or Knight Rider? The show with the talking car, or the show with the motorbike that had more gadgets than Batman's Batmobile? Actually, wait, that's still a Knight Rider. Anyway, let's talk about it this time on Andrew Discusses. Back in the 80s, shows that dealt with police dramas or souped up vehicles, futuristic stuff, were a dime a dozen. Network TVs were just eating that stuff up, and so were the viewers. Anything that got asses on couches and having your eyes glued to your television were pretty much a welcome thing. So enter ABC and NBC, two channels that were constantly bickering amongst each other as to which one was better when it came to primetime programming. ABC had the upper hand for a while, but then NBC took over, and it's still been an uphill battle ever since. Even to today, it's still an uphill battle. But back in the 80s, you had two titans of contenders. Well, okay, one titan and one wannabe to the throne. They were Knight Rider and Street Hawk. Street Hawk was on ABC, running for 13 episodes. Let me pull up the thing here. Running for 13 episodes from January 4th of 1985 until May 16th of 1985. Whereas Knight Rider basically lasted from 1982 until 1986. So I think it's clear to see which one was already better. And second off, Knight Rider was a car! It was a kick-ass car! How the hell can you top a car? Oh, it's a motorcycle. Okay, you know how difficult it is to get a motorcycle license? No. How easy is it to get a car license? A little easier than a motorcycle license. Really? Yeah. I should know. I took the test 3 times to get a driver's license. But anyway, today we're going to be discussing which show did it better. Was it Street Hawk with its piss-poor story arcs, really pathetic characters, the fact that it just hate them in general, or Knight Rider with David Hasselhoff? Look, I'm just going to come right out and say this right here and now. Anyone that was watching Knight Rider was watching it for the car. Or for, Discount Alfred and the mechanic. You are not watching this show for David Hasselhoff. And for those of you that were, I do apologize. But then again, you had Baywatch. You could watch him on Baywatch. I was watching Knight Rider in syndication, mind you, because I was only born in '89. I was watching Knight Rider for the car. The Knight Industries 2000, or KIT for short, voiced by William Daniels, one of the greatest actors of the 80s and early 90s. He was Mr. Feeney on Boy Meets World. Yes, wise Mr. Feeney. Anyway, let's start off with the pretender to the throne, shall we? Let's kick things off with Street Hawk. So, what in the hell was Street Hawk? Well, here's the premise for it, which is the actual plot. And this is the actual plot they give you during the opening of every episode from episode 2 to 13. Episode 1 being the pilot, which was a complete travesty compared to the rest of them because none of the plot elements from that existed further down the road. But I'll explain. So this is the basic opening. This is Jesse Mock, an ex-motorcycle cop injured in the line of duty. Now a police troubleshooter. He's been recruited for a top-secret government mission to ride Street Hawk, an all-terrain attack motorcycle designed to fight urban crime. Capable of incredible speeds up to 300 miles an hour and immense firepower, only one man, Federal Agent Norman Tuttle, knows Jesse Mock's true identity. The man, the machine, Street Hawk. Yeah. Basically, this was Street Hawk, a souped-up motorcycle that basically only could handle Jesse Mock because it was tuned only to his body, meaning that he had to keep himself in tip-top shape. It basically was a discount kit. especially for the fact that by this point in time, Knight Rider had already been out for at least 2 seasons by the time this show aired. So, yeah, go figure. Well, sorry, at least 3. Wait a minute, 86, that was 4. Yeah, so at least 2 seasons by the time this show came out. 2, 3, depending on what you want to consider. But either way, still, this show was a pretender to the throne. And honestly, there was a lot wrong with Street Hawk versus Knight Rider. Now, I'm not saying Knight Rider is completely innocent in this either, but hear me out for a moment. Both of them had a similar gimmick. Knight Rider... Oh, wait, hold on. Before I go into that, let's actually talk about Knight Rider for a second and give you the plot on that one. Let's have both contenders come to the table here. So, the plot for Knight Rider is simple. Now, they don't spell it out for you at the start of every episode. That would be insane. The plot for Knight Rider is simple. Self-made billionaire Walton Knight rescues police detective Lieutenant Michael Arthur Long after a near-fatal shot to the face, giving him a new identity by plastic surgery and a new name of Michael Knight. Walton selects Michael to be the primary field agent in the pilot program of his public justice organization, the Foundation for Law and Government, or FLAG for short. The other half of this pilot program is the Knight Industries 2000, KIT for short, a heavily modified, technologically advanced Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, kick-ass car by the way, with numerous features including an extremely durable shell and frame controlled by a computer with artificial intelligence. Michael and KIT are brought in during situations where direct action might prove the only feasible solution. You also have Devin Miles, who is the head of FLAG, and the mechanic, Dr. Barney Barstow, and she was also replaced with April for Season 2. So, that is Knight Rider, and this is Street Hawk. So, we've already gone over the 2 contenders. So, now let's actually analyze which one of these was better or worse. And, yes, this is a discussion video because these were both basically the same show! Seriously, Knight Rider had a car, Street Hawk had a motorcycle. You put one of them on 2 extra wheels and you put a shell around it, they're basically the same damn show. So, what does Street Hawk bring to the table? Well, Street Hawk's got a motorcycle that with, oh, I can't believe I'm actually going to say this, the ability to go hyper thrust. It can go a whopping 300 miles an hour, up to 300 miles an hour, and if the pilot episode is to be believed, which, whew, there's some continuity issues within the series itself, can stop on a dime at 300 miles an hour. One moment, please. I'm sorry. The motorcycle will stop. Sure, the motorcycle will stop on a dime. The poor rider, though, on the motorcycle, well, let's just put it this way, boys and girls. Physics 101 will tell you the following. A motorcycle or an object going X amount of miles per hour will stop upon impact with an immovable object. It's one of Newton's laws of motion. An object in motion will continue to be in motion until met with resistance from something else. Basically, let's say a 300-mile-an-hour motorcycle stops on a dime. After going 300 miles an hour, does this immediately stop? The motorcycle will stop. The rider, on the other hand, will continue to go 300 miles an hour as inertia slowly disintegrates. In other words, they will slow down gradually as they are speeding down whatever they are in front of until they hit something that will stop them. Let's say a brick wall, for example. In which case, they will be a Picasso painting, or, hey, hold on. No, they'll be a Jackson Pollock painting on the side of a bakery. Yes, there'll be bits of an eyeball over here, a leg over there. Oh, those are kidneys hanging from a power line. Oh, man, I knew that was going to happen. That bike is horrible. Yes, that was Street Hawk's main thing, was hyperthrust. The ability to go up to 300 miles an hour, which could be used not once, but twice or more per episode. And each episode was about an hour long to begin with. Second issue. Well, okay, no, screw it. We got Hyper Thrust for Street Hawk. We got Turbo Boost for Kit. However, with Kit, Turbo Boost was once per episode. I think maybe one episode it was used twice, but it wasn't used to its full power on either shot. So, yeah, and plus, bear with me, my memory is very hazy with past Season 2 of Knight Rider, because I only owned up to Season 2 on DVD, and I don't have it anymore to rewatch it. God, I wish I did, though. Knight Rider was such a good show. Street Hawk, on the other hand, I watched, and I loved it, how I said it, as my grandfather and I watched it on Shout Factory's app. Every time the bike went into hyper thrust, I go 3, 2, 1, bullshit! Because that bike could not go 300 miles an hour. I think the biggest slap to the face with this series was the one episode where hyper thrust couldn't be cleared by the computer, which was, by the way, computer assisted. Yeah, that's right. It couldn't be cleared by the computer because of too much traffic in the way. So, of course, Jesse Mock decides, hey, I'm going to control it manually at 300 miles an hour weaving in and out of traffic. This is logic. Isn't it cute? It's a little logic. That's what it did! At that point, we throw logic out the window. So, I'm sorry for the demonstration there. So anyway, Street Rider versus Nighthawk. We have their gimmick. They can each go fast. Let's check out the hardware they each got. Well, Street Hawk's pretty much coming to bat with a laser, which was very seldomly used outside of episode 1 and possibly 2. Maybe a couple episodes down the road, it was used like once or twice. A few machine guns, which were used a few dozen times. And that's honestly it. Knight Rider, on the other hand, Kit can hack into anything that has a computer with it. Kit can basically do anything. It's impervious to damage because of its molecularly bonded shell. It was basically a roving tank that was a four-wheeled automobile. Point to Knight Rider. How do we got for assistance here for the two? Well, we got Street Hawk with Norman Tuttle back at base camp, controlling everything via his computer and seeing everything via his map, constantly bitching that this is not the time to take Street Hawk. You can't go this fast. Don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. This thing's still a prototype. Versus Kit, which was, come on, Michael, let's go. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. I'm all set and ready to go, Michael. The only times that Kit was ever really destroyed, and the one that really hurts me the most, was that Junkyard Dogs episode where they literally dissolved him in toxic acid, and I still cringe at that moment, seeing Kit being sucked into that lake of acid and toxicity and just screaming out for help. It haunts me in my dreams. But anyway, point to Knight Rider. Screw it. Look, Knight Rider actually had the assistant with him. Jesse Mock had his back at base camp bitching that, you're taking my bike! You're taking my bike! I don't want you to take my bike! Episodes. First off, Knight Rider lasted for at least 4 seasons. Versus Street Hawk's 1. Get down there! Stay down there while you're at it, damn it. So let's put it this way. With Street Hawk only lasting 1 season of 13 episodes, barely even hanging on at that point because the plot, continuity, and everything else was just thrown out the window along with physics, so much was altered from the pilot episode that it just didn't make sense anymore. It was literally a Knight Rider ripoff. Basically, in the pilot episode, Jesse Mock was injured after his partner on the force was brutally murdered after witnessing a drug bust. I use air quotes for the parts that were removed for the rest of the series. Yes, apparently because he was injured, he was forced to become the liaison for the PR department. I know that I hate press releases. Basically, because he was set as the PR man for the remainder of the series, or at least that was his cover, he had to stay at that. However, in the opening episode, basically the pilot, it was determined that he had a bit of a limp. However, it was corrected so that he could ride Street Hawk. Yet he had to pretend he still had one. Yet with episode 2, he had no injury at all. So what was his issue with not being able to go out and be a cop anymore? As you said, he was injured on the force, so he's not walking around with a limp. He's not taking his dear sweet time walking or running somewhere. So your point is what exactly? None? That's what I thought. Let's take a look at Knight Rider. Cop gets injured, gets plastic surgery to make himself look like the billionaire's son who he disowned, because this one's going to be a much better version, because this one actually upholds the law, gives him a super powerful car, doesn't control what he does because he dies in the pilot episode, but he gets to continue on with the car, solving crimes from town to town to town, making new friends, new adventures, and having a blast. Point to Knight Rider. So, Knight Rider 3, Street Hawk 0. Wow. So which one actually did it better, basically? I know, I've had too much fun bad-mouthing the both of them. I should have just called this an Andrew Versus video and been done with it. But no, which one of the two did it better? Honestly, Knight Rider did it way better than Street Hawk did. Street Hawk had its time in the sun, but it failed and missed the mark brilliantly. If it would have came out at the same time Knight Rider came out back in 1982, it may have actually had a chance to be a contender with Knight Rider, showing up as Knight Rider's supposed equal. However, by 1985, Knight Rider was pretty much dominating the airwaves of anybody that was anyone wanting to watch it, and truthfully, it was a way better show. It already had its foothold in the audiences. It had at least 2 seasons worth of plot elements done by then, including the whole, there's a second, Michael in the form of Garth Knight, who basically has his own version of the Kitmobile in the form of Goliath, a massive Mack truck. So, yeah, this is an impressive show in its own, and it already has its foot well established in the door, and you have nothing but a souped-up motorcycle and a middle finger to physics. Yeah, if this were a death battle, the winner would be Knight Rider by a landslide. I mean that. So, my final thoughts on this, honestly, take them as you will. Some people may like Street Hawk, and I thought it was an interesting show, but premise-wise, plot-wise, character-wise, it felt so half-assed it wasn't funny. This honestly was a desperate attempt to make a Knight Rider clone, in my opinion, and it failed miserably on its face. Versus Knight Rider, which actually was a Knight Rider. It was Knight Rider. It was the Knight Rider show. It was the show that it was supposed to be, and honestly will always be fondly remembered. Hence why Street Hawk is an oddity that Shout Factory had on its app channel. Because who remembers Street Hawk? Well, I sure don't. So the winner of this one is definitely going to be Knight Rider. Yep. It's just sad, basically, but that's how it is. Thank you all for tuning in for this wonderful episode of Andrew Discusses, and until next time, remember, this is a fun video. Bye, everybody, and I'll catch you all next time on the next episode of Andrew Discusses. Bye.